Hello guys, Oscar Hotel 8 Sierra Tango November Julian here for Off-Grid Ham Radio. Today we're going to revisit the Lab599 Discovery TX-500, an HF to 6-meter QRP radio you've undoubtedly seen on the channel before. I'll be showing you a portable power module specifically designed to work exclusively with the TX-500. Stick with me and I'll tell you all about it.
You are listening to the emergency broadcast systems. This station broadcasts emergency news and official information on the air for assigned area.
As I mentioned earlier, the Lab599 Discovery TX-500 is a QRP radio you've seen on the channel before. In fact, many of you may know this as my Doomsday Radio.
Oscar Hotel number 8 Sierra Tango November Papa.
I've even made Go-Kit videos with the TX-500, as well as doing a lot of data communications for off-grid comms using the TX-500. The only thing it's ever been missing was a modular battery pack to attach to the back of it, so that we wouldn't need an external battery. Well, I'm happy to say that modular battery pack has arrived. It's called the BP Bravo Papa 500, and it comes from Lab599. The Bravo Papa 500 is an 18650 3S 2P battery pack, allowing the end user to install their own 18650 batteries. It also has a wide voltage input of 13 to 50 volts, which means you can directly connect your solar panel to the voltage input of the Bravo Papa 500. Moreover, no external solar charge controller is required. You've got your radio, you've got your BP-500 battery pack, and you've got your solar panel. That's all you need. And now let's go through the Bravo Papa 500 and get all of you familiar with it. By now, most of you are already familiar with the Lab599 TX-500. It's quite a small radio, but of course once you start adding external batteries and things like that, it can grow in size and complexity. We normally use this DC port, the GS connector, to connect a battery or some external power supply right at that port by my thumb. With the BP-500, we don't need to do that. This is because the TX-500 was designed with modularity in mind. It has pogo pin pads on the back, allowing devices to connect directly to the back of the radio, and in this case a battery pack, to power the radio through these pogo pin pads. When using the BP-500 battery pack, the GX connector remains unused, making this configuration a much cleaner setup. Now let's take a look at the BP-500 itself. The first thing you'll notice is the heatsink on one end of the enclosure. This provides additional heat dissipation for the TX-500 when the battery pack is attached. Next, you'll notice the battery compartment with the Lab599 logo and the pogo pin connectors, which match up with the pogo pin pads on the underside of the TX-500. And now we can see how the TX-500 is designed to be attached to the Bravo Papa 500. Once attached, the Bravo Papa 500 and TX-500 seem to be a tightly integrated system. You wouldn't know that the radio is independent of the battery. Here we can see how the pogo pins line up on the TX-500 and the BP-500. This is going to be important later on when we attach the BP-500 to the TX-500, as the pogo pins will be used to line up everything correctly. Now, one interesting feature of the BP-500 is its battery compartment. It allows the end user to insert 18650 lithium-ion cells to power the radio. The BP-500 has 6 battery places for a configuration of 3 in series, 2 in parallel, 3S2P, lithium ion. We can install either 3 batteries or all 6. This means either a 3S1P configuration or a 3S2P configuration. Being able to decide whether we'll use a 3S1P or 3S2P is a clever feature. There are those activations where weight savings is more important than runtime. On the flip side, there are those times when runtime is more important than weight savings. Ultimately, the radio operator can decide which is the best configuration to use for a particular activation. So let's go ahead and attach the BP-500 to the TX-500. All the screws and tools were included in the kit I received, and I hope that's true for the kit you receive as well. So the BP-500 has through holes on the enclosure. Those holes line up with mounting holes on the back of the TX-500. The TX-500 mounting holes are already threaded, so you don't need bolts. You only need the screws that come with the package. When you're placing the Bravo Papa 500 on top of the TX-500, make sure to do it straight down from above. Don't slide it from the left, the right, the top, or the bottom. It must come down straight from above the TX-500. This is so we don't bend the pogo pin connections on either device. Now, once we have the Bravo Papa 500 placed correctly on top of the TX-500, we can use the included Allen wrenches to screw down the screws that came in your kit, attaching the BP-500 to the TX-500. No need to torque these down like Hercules, you know. A little bit better than hand tight will be enough. Perhaps hand tight with another quarter to half turn. Once you have the BP-500 installed onto the back of the TX-500, you can really begin to see how clean an installation this is. Now, if you attached the BP-500 correctly, you'll see the heatsink on the BP-500 touching the back of the TX-500. This is important as it allows additional heat dissipation for the TX-500. It's also important to point out we don't use the tilt-up functionality built into the TX-500. The BP-500 also has these tilting legs built in, allowing us to tilt the TX-500 up towards us even when the BP-500 is installed. Now, those legs serve a dual function. Not only do they allow us to tilt the radio's faceplate up towards us for better viewing, they also protect the power and charging leads on the back of the BP-500. Absolutely clever stuff. Ultimately, I'm going to put 6 batteries inside the BP-500. For now, I'm going to start this video with just 3 because my cells haven't arrived yet. But the cells I ordered for the BP-500 are the Panasonic NCR 18650 Bravo. Now here I'm demonstrating how you can choose to use either 3 cells on one side of the battery pack or 3 cells on the other side of the battery pack. I don't have 6 cells, so I can't show you all 6 cells installed, but 3S1P configuration or 3S2P configuration. I'm going with 3S1P. Keep in mind you can't mix match cells on one side of the battery pack. You either put 3 on the left side or 3 on the right side or all 6. No mixing and matching. Now with those cells installed, we can go ahead and install the battery compartment cover back onto the BP-500. The battery compartment is held on with 6 screws, and those screws are included in the package. Also included in the package is the Allen wrench to tighten those screws down. Outstanding. We have the battery compartment cover on, so now we can go ahead and do the startup sequence. Under the tilt-up legs, you'll find on one side the power button and on the other side the charge state button. It's easy to differentiate the two because one has a single button plus one LED. The other one has a single button plus 4 LEDs. We'll want to push and hold the single button side, that's the power switch, allowing power to be funneled through to those pogo pins and into the radio. The only time this isn't true is when you've just put a fresh set of batteries into the BP-500. When you put a fresh set of batteries into the BP-500 and you don't get the radio or power to the pogo pins to power up the radio, there's a trick to getting the BP-500 to initialize the first time. This is just like the battery management system we put into the DIY battery packs of our lithium iron phosphate or lithium ion batteries. So the very first time we put a fresh set of batteries into the BP-500, we should connect a power supply to the DC input of the BP-500 to initialize the battery management system. This is the only time this has to be done, and any other time, the BP-500 will start supplying power to the TX-500. So now, with the external power supply connected, when I push that power button again, the battery management system will be initialized, and it'll go ahead and supply power to the pogo pins of the TX-500. You'll also begin to see the charging LEDs flickering there to show you that the radio and battery pack are connected to an external supply. It really couldn't be any easier than this, guys. Now we're going to go ahead and push that power button again for a second or a second and a half until that light comes on. Then immediately flip over the TX-500, push that power button, and your TX-500 will boot up. Now, although my camera is refusing to focus on the screen of the TX500, I assure you that the voltage from the BP500 battery pack is displayed right there on the front screen of the TX500. Now, there's another little feature to keep in mind, guys, and that's when we're powering off the TX500. When I push the power button on the TX500, you have about 10 seconds before the power from the BP500 will shut down. This is an energy-saving feature and one that I actually really like. It also disconnects the power on those pogo pins if there's no active load on the BP500. So let's go ahead and take a look at how the BP500 acts when integrated with the TX500 after the battery initialization process. So now, we try to turn on the TX500, but nothing happens when we push the power button. This is because the power from the BP500 is disconnected at the DC outputs on those pogo pins. So let's go ahead and turn the TX500 upside down, lift up the leg, and push the power button to enable the DC outputs. Now, when we push the power button on the TX500, it'll go ahead and boot up normally. But wait, there's more. If you now try to power down the TX500, flip it over immediately, pick up that leg, and you'll notice that after a few seconds, the power button will shut down. This auto disconnect mechanism shuts off the power to the DC pogo pins so that you don't waste your battery or inadvertently do something with those pogo pins exposed if the TX500 isn't attached. Come on, guys, how cool is that? Okay, a few tips before we shut down this video. Never, never, never connect DC power to the TX500's GX DC port when the BP500 is installed. Use the barrel plug connector on the BP500 itself for your power supply, solar panels, or any other DC source you'd like to use to power the TX500. It'll be fine as long as it's between 13 and 50 volts. That's 13 and 50 volts. It may seem a bit counterintuitive, but I assure you, it works this way, and it works fine. You can connect your desktop supply, you can connect your solar panel, or any other DC source to that port. Finally, I think the TX500 with the BP500 looks extremely clean, especially because it doesn't utilize that GX connector for DC input on the TX500. For a QRP configuration, this is absolutely magnificent. So, let's take the TX500 with the BP500 out for some field testing. The very first thing you'll notice is the clean look of the TX500. There's no cables coming out of the GX connector other than the microphone. This makes the TX500 much easier to set up, as you don't have to fiddle around with connecting cables and wires and things like that. We simply enable the power on the BP500, then hit the power button on the TX500, and that's it. No fiddling, no wire mess. SSB was an absolute pleasure to work in this configuration, as well as data modes. Even using the DigiRig, having fewer cables coming out of the TX500 to an external power supply was a real pleasure. So what else can I say about it, guys? At the end of the day, it's a modular portable power supply, purpose-built for the TX500, and it does an excellent job at what it was designed to do. Let me know what you think about it, and if this video helped you to get started with your own Bravo Papa 500. Let me know what you think. Huge thanks to my YouTube members and patrons and everyone else who's helping to keep this channel up and running. For the rest of you, if you like what I'm doing, if you like the content I'm creating, please leave me a comment, a thumbs up, or even a super thanks to let me know. And if it's not too much to ask, please share this video with someone or somewhere where other operators might enjoy it. Rock and roll, guys. You are all absolutely awesome. Thanks for watching. Ciao.